Richard Rosa with Polishing Your Diamond, a personal development podcast. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Richard Rosalevich. This is a podcast on personal development, really bite-sized chunks on how you can evolve and start making transformations on yourself. If you'd like to know more about me, I have a small bio on my website. You can find at www.polishingyourdiamond.com. You'll also be able to find me on iTunes, Spotify, and for anyone who prefers video, go to YouTube. You'll also be able to find me on Instagram, IGTV, Facebook, LinkedIn, where there'll be snippets of my content, and everything will be linked to my website. So today I'd really like to start by giving a big shout out to all the medical professionals and other public services around the world that are supporting in this time of crisis. You guys are really heroes and demonstrating complete self-sacrifice, putting yourselves in the way and making sure that the patients and community are first for the greater good. And a heartwarming and emotional thank you to all. Without you and all your support, we'd certainly be worse off. Thank you very much. In this episode, I'll be talking about focus, where we should focus, why we focus on the negatives, and then we're going to look at the final key to a positive emotional state, but also something that helps with focus. Something discussed in the last two episodes, but I'll be touching on that again today. Most of us realise that worrying is irrational and counterproductive, yet we can't seem to stop ourselves. And research consistently shows that we worry about money and financial issues more than just about anything. Now, although this is not specifically an episode about finance, I do just want to touch on a gentleman called Carl Richards. He's a financial advisor, writer and podcaster who specialises in behavioural finance. Carl says there are two simple questions we should ask ourselves whenever we find ourselves fretting about something. And I'm going to come on to these right now. Number one, does it matter? And number two, can I do anything about it? So if the answer to either of these questions is no, we should be tough with ourselves and stop worrying about it. This is also very similar to The Circle of Influence and Control by Stephen Covey, which I'll probably talk about on some other episodes in the future. But back to Carl Richards. So there was an interview with Carl Richards where he talks about our tendency to worry about the wrong things and the danger of perfectionism. He also discusses the importance of changing our attitude towards risk and volatility. Carl's renowned for his sketches for the New York Times, which illustrate simple but important concepts. Concepts that people need to understand when thinking about money. Perhaps he's best known for his sketch, which is about the need to focus on things that matter and what we have control over. And to stop worrying about everything else. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit now. And I'd like you to write down a list of what you have in your mind right now. Something that's maybe bothering you, or anything that you believe you'd like to do something about. I'd like you to just write it down, even if it's like the top 3 things or top 5 things that are there. So once you've done that, okay, now I want you to look back at what you've written and answer the following questions. It's as simple as that. Does it matter? So look at each one of those things and can you tell me, does it matter? What you've written there, does it matter? Now, if you've put a yes to it, then you then ask yourself the next question. Can I do something about it? Or in your case, can you do something about it? If it matters to you and you can do something about it, then that's something that you should focus on. Now, if it's something that doesn't matter, but you could do something about, there's no need to do anything about it. If it is something that does matter, but you can't do nothing about, then again, do you really need to be focusing on that and worrying about it? You must focus on the right things at the right time. Absolute period. It will keep your emotional state positive and forward thinking. Now let's talk about the big but. And I don't mean my big but it's human nature to focus on the negative. Is it not? So wondering why you always focus on the negative if you're one of those people? Has anyone ever accused you of being a negative person? Or has someone told you that you focus on the negative too much? Perhaps you've gotten feedback from someone before, only to focus on the one piece of negative feedback rather than the 10 pieces of positive feedback they actually gave you. If this is you, if you focus on the negative, that's okay. It's fine. It means you're human. Almost all of us do this. And while focusing on the negative might just seem like an annoying habit, there's a scientific reason for it. This pattern stems from way back in the Paleolithic era, where like cavemen, Stone Age era and so on. And originally was a defense mechanism designed to keep us safe and alive. But this was way back in the cave people days when physical safety was constantly in danger. Now, whether it was a hungry lion, a saber-toothed lion, bears, human nature, it could have been anything. Our brains are wired on threats of survival, and they focus on these threats of survival, ignoring all of the other information as a way to protect us. It's actually pretty impressive, but until now, with COVID here, the problem was that most of us no longer needed to worry about our physical safety as much on a daily basis. Not worried about being eaten by a bear or trampled by a herd of buffaloes. Unfortunately, our brains have kept this old defense mechanism, translating the focus on threats to our physical safety, to threats to our emotional safety. So when your brain perceives the potential for rejection, judgment, or failure, your brain does what it knows how to do best. It focuses on the negative, trying to keep you safe. So here's the problem though, and it's a big problem. This theory doesn't hold up for emotional safety like it does for physical safety. It works when you're talking about lions and tigers, but when you're talking about relationships and work stresses, in fact, not only does this pattern of focusing on the negative not work anymore, it actually means what it's work. It leads to all sorts of unpleasant stuff, including anxiety, stress, fear, depression, and discouragement. And these are things that you might have felt before, you might be going through. However, there is light at the end of the tunnel. You can change this pattern. It takes time, but you can. You can train your brain to see things differently. With some intentionality and practice, you can totally train your brain to see the good. We can't control what life throws our way, but we can absolutely control how we respond. So unless you've got lions and tigers chasing you, it's time to stop focusing on the negative. Be intentional, see the good, challenge your brain to learn something new. As I do with all my episodes, I'm going to equip you with some tools to support in dealing with negative thoughts. These 2 tools will support in focus, positive thinking, and maintaining support, getting you out of negative emotional state. So the first one is something that we've talked about before in prior episodes, something I'm going to be delving into a bit more detail. Not today, I'm going to tell you what it is, but I'm going to be giving you some more tools for this specific piece, and that's gratitude. So we talked about that in prior episodes. So writing down a few things you're grateful for is one of the easiest and most popular exercises available. So journaling your gratitude. The purpose of this exercise is to reflect on the past. Maybe you can do it on a daily basis, or you reflect every few days, or you do it at the end of the week. And remember 3 to 5 things you are especially grateful for. And in this way, you are focusing on the good things that happen to you in a given set of time, which is important. What is the appropriate amount of journaling one should do per week? That is completely up to you. Everybody has their own preference. So it's whatever you find. However, if you get to the point where this becomes a bit too much of a task and not enjoyable practice anymore, then you need to adjust the amount of time that you're doing the journal. It could be you're doing too much of it, so maybe you just leave it so you're not doing it so often. And finally, the key to supporting your emotional state, but also focus. What is it? It is the most simple of things you can do, yet that is, in my opinion, and one of the most powerful tools available to you. I have touched on this in prior episodes, but talked in a more broader scale. when discussing internal dialects. The key to mastering your emotional state and focus are the questions you ask yourself. What is the result you are after? Clarity is power. The clearer you are on what you want, the faster your brain will get you there. That means you have to understand how you ask yourself the right questions. I'm not going to give you any questions yet. They will be given in the next episode. So that brings us on to time for the PYD challenge. So polishing your diamond challenge. For the next 30 days, I want you to use one of these each day. You can alternate which one you want to use, but you have to use one of these for the next 30 days and keep us in the loop on how this is going. You can do that through our social media channels. You can share messages, DM me, however you prefer. 2 things that you're going to need to do. Saying thank you. Intentionally find someone you care for, an employee, a friend, family member, even a stranger, and tell them thank you. So that's one of them. Tell someone that you love them. Whether it's a parent, child, or close friend, tell them you love them and care about them. We often forget to tell those we love that we do love them. So it's nice to be reminded that someone loves you. And if you can, add the why you love them. The what and the why. It's always going to make it way more powerful. And finally, I want you to share your most empowering questions that you ask yourself. So those first 2 pieces that I've just given you, saying thank you, tell someone you love them, you've got 30 days to do those. You only have to do one of those, at least one of those every day. You keep us up to date on how that's going. But also I'd like you to prepare yourself with some of the best questions and most empowering questions you ask yourself to really support your focus and your emotional state. If you ask yourself the right questions, it will get you out of that negative emotional state and get you to focus on what it is that you want to focus on. In the next episode, I'll be sharing with you some of my favourite empowering questions, along with some other tools to add to your toolkit. That's it for today, guys. Go to my website, www.polishingyourdiamond.com, for more content and subscribe. You'll be able to find my podcasts on iTunes and Spotify, and for anyone who prefers video, go to YouTube. You'll also be able to find me on Instagram, IGTV, and LinkedIn, Facebook, where there'll be snippets of my content, and everything will be linked to my website. Remember, polish your diamond. This has been Richard Rosa. Stay safe and keep active.